more things change, the more they stay the same. Yep, we're jumping right back into the Mario franchise by going through the Wario branch of the series. Personally, I haven't had much experience with this spin-off of Super Mario, so I'm looking forward. And our first stop is going to be back in the comfortable shoes of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, where Wario is cast as the antagonist once again. When I got to this game, I thought it was going to be a quick campaign mission bolted onto an unassuming and familiar color-matching game that we've all gotten to know so well during the last decade of video games ripping off Bejeweled, but that's the first point where I was wrong. The game is actually a Tetris ripoff flipped onto its head to make one of the strangest, oddly compelling versions of Tetris I've played since the original. When I first downloaded this ROM to test the game out, yeah, anti-emulation people, I emulated the game. That's something that you're just going to have to deal with. I actually had something planned later in the day and figured that I would just test the game for about 15 to 20 minutes with matches against a computer player because I thought it was going to be another copy of a different game I had already mastered. Surprisingly, I almost missed the appointment that day because the combination of the weird control scheme and the time I spent convincing myself that I could beat the computer had turned this early SNES game into one of the most addicting experiences I've ever had playing a video game. Even Bowser's Inside Story didn't suck me into it as well as Wario's Woods, a game where the main plot is that Wario flies around the entire planet and so Toad has to blow up his castle, because those two things have something to do with each other. That's puzzle games for you. Fair warning, I didn't actually complete the campaign mode because I was doing it off of the back of save states. But during the last 10 levels, there are tiny margins for error, and I basically save stated myself into a corner and didn't want to continue because there were no continues for such things. If you fuck up in that mode, you go back to the level 1. I also found out that there was no point to actually getting to the end since the reward was a cutscene and no boss fight with Wario. At least not in this port of the game. The gist of Wario's Woods is that it is a Tetris color matching game, but instead of the player controlling the blocks outside the window and placing them wherever you want, Wario's Woods decided to innovate and built a combination Tetris and platforming game where the player has to use Toad jumping on blocks and climbing in order to move things around and create rows of colors and bombs in order to clear the window. When the game really starts getting going and the opponent starts using super bomb power-ups and drops extra lines on the player, running up and down columns to get things moving as blocks are raining on your head brings a whole new level of excitement to the game and would make for excellent multiplayer shenanigans if you needed a new game to put on your co-op list. Wario's Woods is an ingenious spin on the usual Tetris game that breathes some life into a puzzle game format that has become so familiar to the 2018 audience. While Wario's Woods requires a totally new control scheme that no other game would have prepared the player for, a good tutorial mode has been provided to get the players prompted for fighting each other or the computer. There's enough playability in this type of puzzle game to tide you over for quite a few matches, similar to how you'd play Mario Kart or Rocket League, and there's something refreshing about going back to do a retro review of a game that just wanted to do one thing and pulled it off very well. Wario's Woods is a challenging puzzle game with a robust campaign mode of 100 levels back to back with no checkpoints that would be perfect for anybody looking for a time sink game or just a title to kill time with. Like other early SNES games, Wario's Woods does have a version on the NES depending on your preference, but either port you go with has aged incredibly well since it's been out of print for more than 20 years. This was a great way to start off the Wario spin-off franchise, and I'm eager to see what other games Nintendo was able to pull out of its greediest protagonist. I'll slap a scoreboard up to finish the video, and give you all a victory for gamers. Thanks for joining me on this colorful video.